Rebel religion in the news.
Religion in the news. We take a look at the events that are taking place in our world and see how, or even if, they really relate to our relationships with God. And I'm glad you could be with us. My name is Jerry O'Lennon. My co-host is Alfredo Romero with Rock of Life Fellowship, and our guest is Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine Anglican Church in downtown Chico. Good morning.
Good morning, Jerry.
Glad you could be here.
Thank you.
So much to talk about, I guess. What anything that has stood out in the last week that you go, I need to tell my congregation about this or tell them about that they should be aware of? Either one of you.
Well, beware of all the vampires. You know, there are a lot of deathless people. We've found out millions of them in America.
We're talking about the what's that office called? DOGE.
It's the Department of Government Efficiency.
It seems to be working.
It's doing such a thing.
Great job. Just great
People are
job.
running
And
scared.
you know it's doing well because there's so many people complaining about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more people complain about it, the more you know effective it is.
Yeah, Elon Musk came out and said, the people that are benefiting from this are the ones that are complaining the loudest.
Right.
He goes, if everybody's fine with it, they're quiet.
Right.
So I liked that quote. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, real quick, the vampires you were talking about were
The vampires.
because apparently people are still collecting Social Security
That's what I was
checks
gonna say.
at the age of 120, 130
There
years
were
old.
even numbers up in the 300s
Yeah.
of age.
So
It's
my understanding is the
insane.
way it works. So let's say you're collecting Social Security, the guy dies, and they keep sending these paper checks.
Yeah.
And I presume that somebody keeps that person's account open, maybe a relative, and then a relative of a relative, generations, and they
Yeah.
just sign the check and they
Becomes
just
a legacy.
Well, actually, what a lot of things that are doing now aren't paper checks. It's automatic deposits
Right.
directly into the bank account.
that's
That's
probably
right.
even more likely.
Yeah, and if you don't report the death, they'll keep paying you.
Yeah.
They will. I mean, when my father-in-law passed away, you have to contact Social Security office and provide them a death certificate, and then they'll stop the payments. And when he passed away, he had passed away, let's say June. I think it was like June 6th, and they gave him a Social Security payment that month, like on the 1st. So when we reported it, they said, "Well, there's going to be a deduction from his bank account. We're going to take the money back." So that's what they do.
so
Apparently, but if you're 199, those checks can keep on coming.
Yeah.
that has to be tempting to do it. I mean, I'm not saying
Not
I
for
would
me.
do it. Well, no, but I mean, I could see where somebody says
The temptation is out there.
the
Yeah,
temptation
sure.
is out there. I'm not saying I certainly would do it. I'm not saying it's okay, but
No, not at all.
especially because it's the federal government, and people think, well, gosh, I've given so much to the federal government. It's time I take advantage of it myself because everybody else is doing it. And of course, just because somebody else is committing a sin, it doesn't mean it's okay for you to commit a sin. But I guess there is something biblical in this. I think sometimes we do say, well, if everybody else is doing it, I guess I could do it. It's okay, and God is going to say, well, that's all right because everybody else is sinning, so it's okay. If
Well,
you do sin.
everybody else is doing it. Why can't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh?
And then the ballot arrives in the mail for them.
Right. You
Yeah,
get a
they're
ballot.
voting, and they're
If you're a
voting.
160-year-old great-grandmother,
And-
and what do you do with that ballot?
Yeah. Now you see. Now I can see why so many people are complaining for those who are taking advantage of this.
Sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because he's so transparent. The whole what I've heard from Steve Bannon was that he's just the term they use is flooding the zone. They've thrown so many stories out there, and it wasn't to get his opponents, the Democrats or his opposition, to get them off guard. It was to get the media off guard.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they can't keep
They can't
up with
keep
all
up
the
with it.
stories.
Nope.
Yeah, the news cycle is about 15 minutes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, what happened this week with this plane went upside down in
Delta
Toronto?
jet, yeah.
What a miracle! I mean,
Did you see the landing? I saw the video this morning where it's on fire.
yes,
It's
yes.
on
There's
fire.
new video. There's new video.
It's on fire, skidding down, and suddenly it just kind of flips and the wings break
And the
off.
person shooting the video, I don't know how he was able to hold on to the camera
It's
shot
pretty
the whole
steady.
time. He's holding on to it, even if it goes down, and then you see this ball of fire and the smoke, and he's like, I think he uses a few curse words, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's probably understandable. But he's still holding on to the shot, and I'm thinking, boy, that guy should be a professional photographer because I'm not sure I would maintain that steady of a shot if I saw something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing, and everybody say I heard a reporter that said it was a news story that there's been more plane crashes under Donald Trump than any other president ever,
Must be his
Yeah.
fault.
and it's
Yeah.
not true. First of all, that's not true, and
Yeah.
it's his fault.
But there has been a rash of them. What was it? They used to say they come in threes, you know?
Right.
I hope we've got three now.
I hope.
I think that's it.
I hope there. I think if it's 4, that means we got 2 more to go,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
which we sure hope not.
No.
Yeah, and I'm flying next month, so I'll be okay.
You know, there's a religious quality to that because you really are putting. You talk about faith. You know,
Yeah.
you put your faith in man, very much so when you're on a plane. But you put your faith in even when you're in a car, but particularly when it comes to a plane. It's because when you're in a car, you feel like you have some sort of control, even because you do have some sort of control. You're at the steering wheel, and it's like, okay, I could do this, I could do that, you know. But you are completely at the mercy.
Did you ever read the book called Airframe by Michael Crichton?
No,
No,
You know, Crichton was a pretty good writer. You know,
Oh, yeah.
And he'd investigate and stuff, and so he has a very well investigated story about an airplane that went into a porpoising accident. It didn't crash, but it was going up and down fast, and a lot of people got hurt, and some got killed just by flying around the airplane because it was mid-flight. Nobody was hooked up.
oh gee,
And so this was not a true story, but it was a plausible story. And so the whole story is about the investigation afterwards and what the multiplication of systems on these flights are and how truly safe they are because of all the safety things that they have and how did this happen. And of course, it finally tells, but it makes me feel actually safer because I know certainly if this plane goes down, that little flotation device under the seat is not going to get used, you know.
Right.
I mean, we're dead.
right. When you go when you go flying,
Yeah.
you are no question. You're praying all the time. I mean, I'm praying from the time the plane takes off until the time the plane lands.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in a constant prayer.
and there's such a spiritual relief in a sense when those wheels hit the ground. Like, okay, got him.
Oh,
I'm still
yes.
I used
Thank
to
you.
whistle the theme to the High and the Mighty. You know, when we land. see who turns green. You know,
That's hilarious.
but
But I did also see that the people that were injured in the plane that flipped over on the runway weren't wearing seatbelts.
Is that
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
that
that
there
makes
was a
sense.
couple of children that were on their parents' laps, and they weren't buckled in. They're the ones that were hurt when the plane flipped over.
sure, makes sense.
Makes total sense. Yeah, because they always say, don't unbuckle your seatbelt till we get to the tarmac and we're at rest and the plane stops. But no,
Yeah.
as soon as that plane hits the wheels hit the ground, you hear,
Yeah.
everybody taking off seatbelts. And I'm like, I keep mine on until like we're the last people off the plane because of my wife, but I keep them on until I'm ready to stand up.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Turning to a different topic real quick and just make a big U-turn here, a big change here. Donald Trump, as we mentioned him, he reestablished the White House Faith Office, and he placed somebody named Paula White Cain in charge. And I just wondered, what's the purpose of this? Is this something that we need, or is this something that is it just sounds good? The order mentioned prioritizing faith leaders with expertise in, quote, combating anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, and additional forms of anti-religious bias. I guess that sounds like that's a
does
worthwhile
sound
mission.
good.
Sounds great to me. And there's a picture of all the spiritual leaders, all the pastors praying over Donald Trump. He's sitting at the Resolute desk, and they all have their hands on him praying for him. I'm good with that. I love that. Sure.
Can't get too much prayer.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
Yeah.
It isn't like, you know, when they say we got to teach faith in schools and stuff like that. I get a little nervous at that only
I do too.
because who is qualified to teach our kids faith and what faith are they going to teach them?
Right.
You know, is it just all open season on any faith? Let's just go for it. But no. And if we insist on teaching good Orthodox Christianity, are we misusing our office?
How do we feel about the status of Pope Francis, hospitalized as extended due to a complex clinical situation?
Complex clinical situation. Is that scientific talk for he's sick?
That's what it sounds like. That's what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
A complex clinical situation. They gave me some antibiotics, and I'm fine now.
Right. I'm not. He's 88 years old.
Yikes.
Suffering from bronchitis for 10 days. He struggled to complete speeches. He's been holding his meetings in some sanctuary, which I can't pronounce, in the Vatican, instead of the Apostolic Palace. He's been treated with cortisol and IV antibiotics. I don't know as much about the Catholic faith as I probably should. I think when anything Catholic, we usually turn to our Anglican person to tell us about what the process is next as the Pope begins to.
Well, if he improves, he'll be back in office. But if he declines, when he dies, of course, the Council of Cardinals is held. The cardinals are the electors for the new popes, and very often popes are drawn from that body, but not necessarily.
He's been sort of a controversial pope, hasn't he?
Sort of.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to be
Sorta.
polite.
All roads lead to God. All religions are the same. And I'm going, no, something's going on there.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it's been hard to watch.
Do you think they're going to make a turn when listen, when he's not in his grave, and maybe it's improper.
Retires. He might retire.
Maybe he'll retire. Do you believe that maybe the church, the Catholic Church, and maybe we should probably talk to a priest about this, but do you imagine the Catholic Church saying, we need to move a little bit back to where we were before he came on?
Well, there are a million conspiracy shows out there that are using the Catholic Church as their backdrop. I mean, you mentioned Steve Bannon; he's on some of this stuff too.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not qualified enough. As a good Anglican, I should think. Maybe it'd be nice if they finally got off their
Duffs?
papal infallibility doctrine. But they can't because every doctrine now has papally infallible, and you can't,
Right.
You can't undo that.
You've locked yourself in on a certain dogma, and now you can't change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be able to talk to a guy instead of he says, it's infallible,
No comment.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say on that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be.
God
Well,
bless the Catholics. You don't kick your mother.
No.
And
Right.
And I love the Catholics. And
Yeah,
they're
we
fully
do
Christians.
too.
It's
I
not-
grew up Catholic.
It's
Yeah.
not Christian
Good
versus
people.
Catholic.
Right.
Of course.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to continue our chat. Rebel religion in the news right after this break. Welcome back. One of the interesting things that's happening in the news right now is ICE is going around trying to corral certain people who have come into this country illegally. Some of them have done really bad things, and everybody seems to agree, at least 80-90% of the population says they need to leave if they've done something that has been illegal, dangerous, a serious crime. But there are others who have been here who are law-abiding non-citizens, and some people believe they should be removed as well. And there has been some talk about some churches that have been having sanctuaries, to use the church as a sanctuary. And I thought that would be an interesting discussion, and maybe one we should have started the show with. But where's the church? The church, the big name, the capital C. Where does the church fall on this? Although I guess it depends on which church you're talking about. Small church, small C church. Some of them say it's okay and that you should have sanctuaries. What's your thoughts on this? I'm speaking with, of course, my co-host, Alfredo Romero of Rock of Life Fellowship, and Bishop Peter Hansen of St. Augustine Anglican Church. You're downtown Chico. There's a rougher area of people that might be down that area. There's more homeless people there.
Right.
There might be more likely to come across somebody who might be illegal here. Not that you've necessarily come across that. What is the position of St. Augustine's Church when it pertains to something like that?
I have never been asked that.
Really?
If we have a position, no, really. I mean, by and large, in all things, we're law-abiding. We go with the laws. To say your sanctuary these days is a loaded gun. I mean, you're not really just saying it's a safe place for somebody who's doesn't want to get falsely arrested. It's saying that everybody who comes in from another country illegally without being properly vetted and going through the immigration office should be hidden out and fed and given a free place. And this is. And if they commit a crime, you let them out. You don't process them. You don't get them in the system. and that's going way beyond anything I think is warranted.
Is there the only sanctuary I've ever heard of? It was an episode of MASH where Father Mulcahy was protecting somebody, and Potter and Alan Alda and the rest of them were all very supportive of him. And it was a somebody who didn't want to go back to war and decided to use a tent as a sanctuary. And Father Mulcahy said respected that, and no, I'm not going to let the MPs come in and take this person and put him in prison
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's my only knowledge of it. I've never really heard of it otherwise. Is there anything biblical about that, where if somebody has done something and the police are after them, where they could use the church, not necessarily use them in a way in sincere use of the church to say, I want to talk to a pastor, I want to talk to somebody who I could share this with and confess what I'm going through, and I want to. Is there biblical support?
The law
for
of
that?
The law of Moses has a sanctuary idea in it. When somebody has committed a serious crime, particularly a murder or something, or killed somebody, maybe a valid killing, maybe a righteous killing. The law back then was pretty frontier justice. I mean, if you killed my brother, I kill you, period, and maybe your whole family. It was over the top, and God through Moses made places where you could go in and cling to the horns of the altar, or go in and plead. And there were sanctuary cities where you could go in and get. Now that didn't mean you were kept safe from prosecution. It meant you were kept safe from being killed by the family. They could bring now like suit and say, okay, let us have a hearing. Let us deal with this judiciously and see what you've really done and why.
It kind of kept from vigilante justice.
Right.
Have you ever had a situation like that in your career? I mean, you've been an Anglican priest for how long?
40 years.
40 years. At one point, somebody must have come to you and said, I've done something that is against the law. Do you report it? If the person confesses and says, okay, I did something, let's not pick something really bad. Well, first of all, has that happened? Has that happened?
As a confessor?
Yes. Somebody has confessed to you that they've committed a crime, and I mean, it's a serious crime. It doesn't necessarily have to be murder or something, but it could be maybe tax evasion, something that is, kind of a serious potential crime. Are you obligated to keep that a secret, or
Sure.
are you obligated to report that to officials?
Well, keeping that very vague in a sense, because I have that obligation. I haven't really received information of a serious crime, though I've thought about, what would I do?
Right.
Because that is, you want to talk about great movies. I Confess is an amazing movie. It's a Hitchcock film. You should see that.
Well, it
if you
must be
haven't.
good.
Oh, it's great. And it's about a guy who confesses murder to a priest, and then the murder itself starts to look like the priest did it, and the cops are coming after him, and he can't defend himself by saying, "No, I know who did it. It's that guy." He can't say that. He can't, and so he can't defend himself, and it's a really wonderful movie.
Is there? I'm trying to think, and we talked about this I think once, but I'm trying to think. I consider myself that I know the Bible fairly well, but I'm trying to think of a scripture. I understand pastor and congregant confidentiality,
Right.
but is there a scripture somewhere that says that we are to keep current crimes, confidential and quiet? We can't report them. That no matter what, we have to remain silent.
That's very good. It's a very good question. Current crimes are for the crime experts to solve, but here's the deal. If you enter into a confessor-confessee role, and this I teach when I teach chaplains for the police department, because we also can be confidential communicators. If somebody looks like they're going to make a confession type of statement, you stop them right there and say, "No, are you talking about entering into a confidential communication with me? Are you asking me to hold my silence for this? well, what kind of area are we talking about here? And I get to make the choice whether I'm going to enter in there or not. As the confessor, I give my my permission for a confidential communication, which is then a one-on-one, nobody else there present thing. Then I keep that guy in that confessee situation until I'm satisfied that he's going to take the right steps. Because he's coming to me for some reason, and he wants the reason to be satisfied. He wants forgiveness. He wants counsel. He wants something, and so I give him my counsel, and I don't let him out. If he's saying I want forgiveness, I'll say, you're not asking for forgiveness because you're not turning yourself over to the police. This has got to be dealt with. This is a serious crime. This is not something you can just walk on.
Interesting.
And so I will not grant that forgiveness from God or from, because it's God's forgiveness that matters, not mine. But I will go with you to the police station. I will sit with you as you make your confession, and I will go into the cell with you, and I will give you, absolution from that, because you're dealing with this in the other arena where you got to do it.
But the consequences still need to be addressed.
Has to, yeah.
Oh.
I had no comment.
No, do you agree or disagree?
I kind of agree and disagree. I'm still struggling. I'm even looking up now. I'm still struggling with where it says, pastor confidentiality. I do understand. I mean, from everything I've known, and I'm not saying I know everything because I don't. And this might be something I need to investigate further. I don't know, and I totally agree with you when it says, if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I'm in this thing right now, and I'm committed this crime, and I'm still, and I'm, hey brother, stop, you sure you want to go? Okay, great. Well, let's do the right thing. Let's go down together, and okay, I get that. But I think I said once before, but if somebody comes up and says, the body's in the backyard, I think all bets are off on that. But I'm trying to look for scripture. I'm trying to, and I can't. I really can't. And there's a controversy on this.
We have 2 more minutes. We should continue this next week. But I mean, we are in the real here and now. It's not inconceivable that an ICE agent could come up to your church and say, "We're looking for this individual, and do you know where he's at?" And you do know where he's at, and this individual told you, you know what, Pastor Alfredo, I'm here illegally. I don't want anybody to know, so please don't share that. What do you do? That's a discussion. I think
that's different. Yeah, to me, that's
don't
different.
all churches need to have this
It's
discussion?
not quite hiding Jews in
right
in Holland during the Second World War.
Yeah,
Right.
but you said something about a law-abiding non-citizen. That's kind of
an oxymoron.
That's
it's an oxymoron, because as soon as somebody, and it's not just America. If I went to Spain and I wanted to jump over to Italy, I just said, well, just walk across the border. I'm arrested. So, and I've broken the law. So if somebody crosses over to another country, any country from another country, without going the proper process, boom, automatically you have broken the law. And so, to say, so that's kind of where I sit on that.
Where this last administration has left us in a moral quandary is that they invited these people.
Yeah.
And they said, come on over.
That's the quandary, yeah.
It wasn't that they necessarily snuck in at night and were ready to shoot
They opened the
guards.
gates.
There's videos of even the Border Patrol just walking people in. So.
And they put us all up, for ransom.
They put us in a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
They really have.
Well, there's one thing I want to say is that when it comes to forgiveness, and I think you mentioned this too, I have nothing to do with forgiving people other than forgiving my brother for something they did against me. But when it comes to God, He's the one that forgives the sin. There's one mediator.
That's the one that matters.
That's the one that matters. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should continue this next week. This is a good one.
Okay.
We have to go. If you're watching on our podcast, the information on Bishop Peter Hansen's church, 10 o'clock Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And St. Augustine Anglican Church, 10 o'clock Sunday morning over on Salem Street.
10 o'clock Rock of Life on Dominic.
10 o'clock on Dominic Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Take good care. So long.